Today I'm going to be telling you about 10 picture books that I read aloud to my fifth graders during the month of March. Hopefully you can find some new books in here and maybe some classics in here, maybe some books you've heard of, maybe some books you haven't. One of the things that I love, and I talk about this each month when I make one of these videos, is that while books might not be new to you, they're new to my kids. And that's just so much fun to be able to share books that they've never heard of that might be 5, 6, 7 years old, and to share brand new books. First book that I want to talk about is Remembering Rosalind Franklin. I did not know Rosalind Franklin's story, and I think that's kind of one of the big points of this book. She was a scientist born a little over 100 years ago, and her contribution to mapping DNA and finding the double helix structure was monumental in the world and so important. And her story almost was untold. We almost never knew who she was. And I'm so thankful that we do now, and that kids can learn her as they inch closer to learning about DNA and the double helix structure in science class. So a beautiful, beautiful picture book that I loved reading, and I love learning the story myself and sharing it with the kids that I serve. Next up, very different book, A Friend for Addie. I actually read this book aloud to a first grade classroom to celebrate Reading Month. I was a guest reader, and they had so much fun with it. The first graders, this is a brand new 2024 book, both of these are. First graders had so much fun. I wanted to see if my fifth graders would have the same kind of feel, and they did. They were so excited. It's about this fish, Eddie, and Eddie wants a friend, and because he's just swimming around in a bowl all the time, and one day, a fish shows up. Well, Eddie thinks it's a fish. It's not a fish. You can probably infer what it is. And then 2 fish show up. What a fun adventure. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the whole, like, John Clausen, like, I want my hat back, this is not my hat. Kind of feel like you kind of in on what's going on, but like the character doesn't know what's going on. It's awesome. A lot of like, and just it's so much joy in this beautiful book, so much suspense in these magical pages. Wild Places by husband and wife team of Haley and John Rocco. It's a story of David Attenborough, this naturalist who was like the first felt like at least an early TV personality, like super early television, who just got people excited about nature, and then eventually took his work in a studio teaching people about animals to out into the field and helped us to see this beautiful world that we live in. And eventually he got really focused in on preserving the world like it is and getting it back to where it was before pollution and just the expansion of cities and places where humans were living and affecting. So wow, what a beautiful book. We've been learning a lot about this naturalist and preservationist in some of the book work we've been doing with informational text during reading. So this was a great one. And then another one, Cactus Queen, kind of a similar feel, where we have this amazing woman, Minerva Hoyt, who basically is the reason we still have Joshua trees on the planet, because her work to get Joshua Tree to become a national forest, holy smokes, what an amazing accomplishment that she had. What a journey. What just a gritty fighter for just something that she believed in. Beautiful story. Next up, Corey Dorfeld is one of my favorite picture book creators. Her book Beneath, her book The Rabbit Listened are just staples in this classroom and part of the foundation that we build our classroom culture on. And Ready to Soar is one to add to the list. You have this kid, his name is Riley, and he's so excited to fly his paper airplane. And every time he gets ready to fly it, different animals come in and tell him how he's doing it wrong and how he needs to do it differently. It's a good book. I mean, of course it's a good book, I wouldn't be talking about it, but it's a great lesson I think for teachers as well, to like celebrate the things that the kids create and things that kids are excited about and things that kids do, and not always trying to tell them to make it better, how to do this. Like, let them explore, let them try things, let them be kids. And then finally an animal comes and has a different reaction to Riley wanting to throw his paper airplane. It's a beautiful, beautiful moment. A must read aloud. We've been studying the Supreme Court in social studies. We've been studying 3 branches of government, and which includes the Supreme Court. So it's interesting to read books that deal with cases so that kids can kind of see how the Supreme Court works. And this is a great example, The Case for Loving, which is a beautiful book, which features the case of the state of Virginia versus the Loving family and their desire to be married in Virginia when they were not the same race back in the 1960s. Wow, what a beautiful book. And it's really interesting to hear kids talk about this case and how, you know, like without cases like this, how that would impact the families that they live in today. It was really eye-opening to them and a beautiful story. It helps them, I think, to understand a little bit better the three branches of government. Built to Last, Dan Santat, Min Lay. These two best friends love building things together. They love watching those things that they build come crashing down. They just have so much joy in the creation. And as you can imagine, if you read any of the books that they've made together, Dan and Min are just a dynamite team. But when this friendship is put to the test, it's pretty suspenseful to try to see if they can put the pieces back together. But, you know, some friendships are built to last. Ferris Wheel. This was a book that I picked up at the public library where we live, and I had never heard of it. It's a book that was originally in a different language. It was translated. I can't remember the language. Turkish. It was originally published in Turkey, and it's two families living very different lives, kind of like on the same day. And just kind of going through like the same, like get up, go, be careful, watch your step, but in very different settings and situations. And it was really powerful and eye-opening for me. So I read it to my kids, and we had some great discussions around Ferris Wheel. Next up, a brand new one called Millies, Millie Fleur's Poison Garden. Millie is new in the town, and she's in one of those fancy towns, you know, with all kinds of associations, and everything's got to be so-so. Well, her house doesn't look like every other house, and she decided to start planting some things, trying to make it feel at home, much different than the plants that the people are used to in the community. They turn their noses up. They aren't a fan. I want her to get rid of it. It's pretty, I keep saying pretty. It's just really fun. And then she decides to try to invite people in to see it instead of letting them judge it and not really understand it. And when everyone kind of comes in and gets a tour of the garden, it's beautiful. The Yellow Bus, Lauren Long. Holy smokes, friends. Do we have a special one here? It's a story of this yellow bus, the life of this yellow bus. Starting as a school bus, it eventually becomes a bus that takes the elderly places, and then eventually it's got such a long story, to people living in it to get out of the rain, to it finding itself in a new location. Lauren Long makes us think. So that's a beautiful, beautiful book. I hope you found something great to add to your to-read list. That's 10 books that I read my students during this previous month. And boy, did we have a great month of reading. There's so many great books to share with kids. I hope you're finding great stories to share with the kids that you serve. Continue to share those magical stories and have that time where kids can just be surrounded by awesome books. My name is Colby Sharp. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an awesome-tastic day.